Labour are rattled.
Yeah.
They're rattled.
They're scared.
Streeting is rattled.
Mm-hmm.
They're going down. They're not popular. I mean, this is the worst start for any government. I think Keir Starmer is the worst ever Prime Minister, and it shows in all the polls. His popularity has sunk.
Keir says Khan wouldn't work with reform to look at employing more police to tackle knife crime, which predominantly affects black youths in London. That's how much he cares. So that was what it was. So instead of dealing with the issue and saying, you know, we all need to work together, this politicking comes into play once again.
Yeah, I think it's a bad characteristic to be stubborn in politics. I really do. I think sometimes you need to deal with a cross-party approach. But just to be so principled, I think it's a misguided principle, but just to be so principled to say, reform, I don't want anything to do with you. I think that's so counterproductive.
Well, it's actually pathetic, and it's not what he should be saying or doing at all. But I'm afraid that man, for me, another one that I think is an absolutely appalling person.
The MPs from the Labour Party are just tired of it. They can no longer contain their anger and openly oppose Starmer. We have information about an explosive meeting that is literally tearing the party apart. And that's not all. We will show you how this internal war, combined with Trump's upcoming visit to the UK, leads to a catastrophic drop in Labour's ratings. Let's talk about the Labour Party meeting that caused a real furor. The hall was crowded with deputies, each of whom was ready to tell Starmer everything that was on their mind. The tension in the air was so palpable that it felt like someone was about to light a fuse. And oh my God, that fuse really caught fire. One of the deputies stood up and called Starmer a spineless jellyfish right in his face. Can you imagine that? Another accused him of betraying the working class.
You mentioned Keir Starmer just now, Steve. What's your verdict so far on how it's going?
Well, I'm a Labour supporter, but I do despair of the risk-free, be all things to all men approach of Keir Starmer, which I think is a fool's errand and might work in the short term, but eventually bites you on the bum further down the line. I know that is a decent man, but I think you sometimes you have to not try and please all the people all the time.
These were not just minor grievances, they were blows to the very core of what the Labour Party is supposed to stand for. The screams were so loud that the people outside thought they were at Wembley Stadium. The hall was in complete chaos. Starmer tried to defend himself, but he looked like a deer in the headlights, trying to fend off attacks from all sides. Some deputies could not stand it and left the hall in disgust. By the end of it all, Starmer looked completely shocked, as if he'd been hit on the head. But here's what's amazing: 15 deputies openly demanded his resignation, right in front of everyone. It's not just a few dissatisfied voices, it's a full-scale riot. The criticism wasn't just about political differences. MPs questioned Starmer's leadership ability, his commitment to Labour values, and his effectiveness as leader of the opposition. They accused him of failing to hold the government accountable and lacking a clear vision for the party's development. And let's be honest, most of us have stressful jobs, don't we? But imagine that you face such hostility every single day. Imagine coming to work knowing that a significant part of your team considers you useless and wants you to leave.
They are laughing the same way they all laughed during the budget when they talked about raising NI. They have no idea what people out there are dealing with. And that is why yesterday we voted against his damaging jobs tax. Even former supporters, Chef Tom Carriage, who endorsed Labour at the election, said that the budget was catastrophic. He built a real business employing young people, unlike his cabinet of trade union stooges, CV embellishers, and an actual fraudster. None of them have ever run a business. Why, when he listened to business who are saying his budget is catastrophic?
This meeting was not just another working day at the Labour Party office. It was an alarming signal that internal divisions in the party had reached a critical point. With the next general election approaching, they have less and less time to solve their problems and present a united front to the voters. Now let's talk about the results of the Labour Party polls. Do you remember the days when Starmer and his team felt confident, like they were on top of the world? The latest data shows that support for the Labour Party has fallen so rapidly that it would make even the bravest skydiver think.
I think Starmer's one of the worst prime ministers we've ever had, and he's only been with us 81 days. But look what he's done in those 81 days. He's allowed the Chancellor to go ahead with a scheme where 4,000 pensioners could freeze to death this winter, and those are Labour figures, by the way, not Tory figures, OK. He's introduced a raft of policies like energy, which could make us dependent on overseas energy ad infinitum, so dictators around the world will control what we have in this country. Never mind the sleaze. I mean, goodness gracious, he stood up in the Commons once, looked across the box at Boris Johnson and said, sleaze, sleaze, sleaze. There's never been a sleazier Prime Minister. Never been a sleazier Prime Minister.
Then Keir Starmer.
Never.
So what makes you call him sleazy? Sleazy's an interesting word for you to use.
Well, if you're walking around in other people's suits to try and improve your image, I saw one...
Well, it's his suit, it's just paid for by somebody else.
They lost as much as 10 points in just 2 weeks. His personal approval rating is so low that he is almost underground. It must be embarrassing when your popularity rivals that of the root canal. Even the traditional Labour strongholds are starting to falter. In cities like Manchester and Liverpool, where Labour has always been able to count on support, there are now worrying signs of weakening. While the Labour Party is trying to put out a fire in their own trash can, the Tories are throwing a real tantrum. They are literally dancing in the streets with joy because of the failures of the Labour Party, as if celebrating the fall of their rival. Some sociologists claim that this is the worst performance of the Labour Party in the last 20 years.
Listen, my advice to Keir Starmer is to stop being an idiot because, listen, Keir Starmer and half of the cabinet voted against President Trump's state visit last time round. We've got so many of members of the cabinet, David Lammy notably, having carried out vitriolic and ridiculous personal attacks on Donald Trump. They're all now desperately trying to backtrack and they're all desperately trying to suck up to President Trump. You know, at best, they're going to be irrelevant. But at worst, they have done great harm to the UK's national interest. So they've got to grow up, stop playing petty student politics, and actually stand up for the UK. Get a free trade agreement, work on ensuring our military and security agreements are robust, and learn the lessons of how Donald Trump is securing their border for a start.
2 decades. It looks like the Labour Party has decided to dig a basement underground to see how low they can sink. The young voters who were once Starmer's main supporters are now leaving him faster than you can use your student loans. And don't forget that all this is happening against the backdrop of Trump's upcoming visit to the UK. It seems that the Labour Party has chosen the most inopportune moment for the crisis, when the world's media will point their cameras at them as if they had become the main characters of the tragedy. So what's left for the Labour Party? Their support in the polls has dropped to 28%, the lowest since Starmer became leader. It's like a political contest in limbo. How low can they go? Perhaps Starmer should start updating his resume.
The mask has slipped. We now can see what Keir Starmer is all about. What do we do with our migrant crisis? Oh well, let's import Europe's. You know, it's been really hard for us to stop migrants getting all the way to the UK. So what are we going to do? We're going to say, oh no, you don't need to get to the UK. You don't need to cross Europe. You don't need to cross the Channel. Just get yourself to Italy. Just get yourself to Greece. We'll hop you on a plane. And, you know, we're struggling with 40,000. We've filled up literally every hotel in the country. That's all right. We will treble the numbers. But it's fine, because I, Keir Starmer, get to fly around the world with my Blairite buddies and hobnob with global leaders and do a deal stitched up without democracy, without scrutiny, look grand on the big stage. And when I'm done as Prime Minister, I'll go off and I'll chair some great UN body. This is everything that is wrong with our world. Nothing is happening. The British people are being taken for a fool. They're not getting...
The meeting with Trump is causing controversy among Labour leaders because it contradicts the basic principles of social justice and equality. Imagine how you explain to your left-wing voters why you are having friendly conversations with Trump. But that's where the fun begins. Trump praised Starmer, saying he was doing a great job. If this is not a fatal blow for the Labour leader, then I do not know what it is. The left wing of the party is going through a real crisis. They are threatening protests if this meeting takes place. Labour MPs protesting against their own leader is like a political version of the Spider-Man meme, where everyone points at each other. Starmer tries to stay calm, claiming that this is just diplomacy, but his deputies don't believe him. They look at him as if he just suggested that everyone become vegan and sign up for yoga classes. There is even talk that Labour MPs may boycott Parliament if Trump makes a speech during his visit. Share your thoughts in the comments. See you later.